You know that feeling? When you're talking, but you can just tell no one's really listening? Well, today, we're going to fix that. We're going to talk about how to turn your ideas into these powerful, persuasive speeches that don't just get heard, they actually get remembered.
So why is it that some ideas seem to just catch fire and, change the world, while other, perfectly good ideas just disappear the second they're spoken? The secret, and this is key, isn't always the idea itself. Nope, it's all about the foundation it's built on. I want you to think of your speech like a building, right? Every point you make, that's a brick. But what holds those bricks together? Without that mortar, without solid evidence, even the tiniest bit of pushback from your audience, and the whole thing can just crumble. Okay, so here's our game plan for building that solid case. First, we're going to cover empty words, solid arguments. Basically, why this stuff matters. Then, we'll go on the hunt for evidence. After that, we'll open up your persuasive toolkit. Then comes the 5-point inspection, super important. And finally, we'll talk about going from speech to impact.
All right, let's dive into that first part. Empty words, solid arguments. We're really starting with the why. I mean, how do we stop just talking and start building arguments that actually have some real weight to them?
So, what are we even talking about when we say evidence? It's actually really simple. It's just any material you use to support the claims you're making. Could be facts, could be stats, stories, quotes. It's all the stuff you use as proof.
And let me tell you, using evidence is an absolute game changer. It does so much more than just prove you're right. For one, it makes your ideas way clearer and honestly, a lot more interesting. It takes what's just your opinion and turns it into this fortified position. But maybe most importantly, it skyrockets your credibility with the audience.
Okay, so you're sold on the why. Now for the how. Where do we find all this crucial evidence? Well, it's time to go on the hunt.
Now, your hunt for proof is basically going to take you down two main paths. You've got primary research. That's when you're the one gathering the info yourself. It's brand new knowledge. Then there's secondary research, which is when you're using information that other people have already gathered. You're building on existing knowledge.
So if you need super fresh, really specific insights for your topic, primary research is absolutely your best bet. Doing interviews, that can get you some powerful expert opinions or some really compelling personal stories. And surveys, they are fantastic for getting a real pulse on what your specific audience already knows or thinks.
But let's be real. Most of the time, you're probably going to be doing secondary research. And that means going way beyond just a quick Google search. You really want to be digging into things like library databases to find those high-quality, peer-reviewed sources, the stuff you know for sure you can trust.
All right, so you know where to look, but what are you actually looking for? Think of it like this. You're building a persuasive toolkit, and there are 5 tools that are absolutely essential.
I love this cartoon because it just perfectly captures the double-edged sword of our first tool, statistics. Right? Numbers, they feel so objective, so powerful. But man, they can also be used to mislead. The real key here is to use them ethically, to present them responsibly, so you can build trust with your audience.
So how do you use stats the right way? Here are a few quick tips. First, don't just drown your audience in numbers. Seriously, less is more. Second, if you've got a complex number, just round it off. Nobody needs to hear 7,492,000. You get the idea. Also, make sure your data is timely. And this one is huge. Make those numbers relatable. Saying 1 in 3 people in this room, that hits way harder than some giant abstract number.
Next up in the toolkit, examples. These are your secret weapon for making abstract ideas feel real and concrete. You can use a quick, undetailed one to just make a fast point, or you can tell a more detailed story to build a real emotional connection. And hey, don't forget the hypothetical. A good what-if scenario can really get your audience's gears turning.
Comparisons are another fantastic tool, especially for making things clear. You've got the simile, which uses like or as. A teacher is like a guide. Then you've got the metaphor, which makes that same comparison, but way more directly. A teacher is a guide. See that? It just creates a much stronger mental picture.
Quotations. This is how you literally borrow credibility from the experts. But to make them really land, you've got to follow a few rules. 1, use sources your audience actually knows and respects. 2, quote them accurately and please in context. And 3, do your best to make sure that source is unbiased. And of course, we've got visual aids. They can be amazing for reinforcing your message, but oh man, is it easy to go overboard. So here's a super simple rule of thumb to keep in your back pocket. Take the length of your speech in minutes, divide by 2, and add 1. That's the maximum number of visuals you should probably use. So for a 10-minute speech, That's 6 visuals max. It helps keep the focus where it belongs, on your message.
Okay, you've gone on the hunt. You've gathered your evidence. You've filled your toolkit. Now comes what might be the single most critical step in this whole process: quality control.
I want you to run every single piece of evidence you find through this 5-point inspection. Ask yourself, 1. Is there enough evidence? 2. Is it accurate? 3. Is it actually relevant to the specific claim you're making? 4. Is it timely? Is it current? And 5. Is it impartial? Is the source free of bias? Look, if your evidence fails even one of these checks, you gotta toss it and find something better. No exception.
So after you've done all this work, what's the real payoff? See, you're not just building a speech. You're building something so much more valuable in the long run. You're building your own credibility.
And this is really the core of it all. Information just tells, but evidence persuades. See, anyone can get up there and just list off facts and information, but a speaker who uses well-researched, carefully tested evidence, they don't just inform, they persuade, they influence, and they inspire people to take action.
So think about your next big idea. It absolutely deserves a strong foundation. The only question left is, how are you going to build it so that it makes a real, lasting impact?